definitely a God story. I think it's God ordained. I think it's been probably 8 years in the making. I was moved to a school closer to our church, and I know that they have high need, not very much parent involvement, and not friendly home environment. And I know our church is an Acts 1:8 church. You put the two together, and it was just natural that our church goes in and tutors and teaches the Word of God.
Really, I got off work at 2 o'clock, and then I would just go from there. And
Tracy asked me if I'd consider being the coordinator. And I was at a stage in my life when I thought, I'm retired. I'd really like to feel retired.
Made it more interesting to get hours in at work.
I was pretty busy during the day, so it was hard to do it, but I enjoyed doing it.
And one of the things I asked my wife, I said, they want me to do this. What do you think? And I really thought my wife would say, you're pretty busy. Maybe pass this one up. She says, oh, I think you'd be good at that.
On the whole, they were flexible enough to allow me to attend regularly.
This was not my first time doing Whiz Kids, and so it was a different experience.
It was a little scary because I'm somewhat of an introvert. When you come to kids and you look at this responsibility that you've got with talking about God and God's love, it is somewhat intimidating and scary at the same time.
Yeah, it wasn't scary other than knowing that there was this little person that I had to kind of be responsible for that hour, and I just didn't want to screw them up.
Taking time out of your schedule for once a week is something that's going to be potentially life-changing to a child who doesn't know the love of Jesus, who doesn't know the Word of God or the gospel.
And then I prayed, I said, God, if I'm not supposed to do this, show me. And he never did. I finally came down to the point where I believed God wanted me to do it. And I'm glad he did. We had some kids that like all kids, they'd rather have done something else that day, and they're tired. They've finished a long day of school. So, but I think when they really got down to the time of tutoring, they worked well with those tutors. And a lot of that's because the tutors did an excellent job.
For me, it was challenging just because some days she didn't want to do anything. So my main way I teach is playing games. So that's what I did a lot of times, was playing games and did the things that we were supposed to do.
Sometimes he was just really quiet. So it was interesting to figure out the right ways to draw him out then.
Cameron was a range of emotions and of highs and lows. I fell in love with him the first time I saw him. He was just the cutest little kid.
I was given the unique opportunity to be a spiritual leader, which means I was able to meet with all of the kids each week. So that was a unique perspective I had versus the other tutors. So it was really interesting because these kids, many of them, didn't really have a church that they attended. So it was a very unique opportunity. I could speak about the love of Jesus.
my little girl really struggled with words, and it took me a while to realize that she didn't know her vowels. So once we caught onto that, our word list was like 25 to 30 words, and in the beginning she only knew like 8, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be a struggle.
Some of the best moments of the tutoring were the moments when my student was really happy that he got something right, because that demonstrates progress.
My girl was kind of shy at first, and so about midway to 2/3 in, one day I came in and she was looking for me, and she just ran up to me and gave me a big hug.
Once he got there and once he was settled down, it was wonderful, and I just thoroughly enjoyed being with him.
By the end, our big moment was that she knew all 25 words, and I felt like once she picked up on the vowels and the concept of them, that she did really great.
Some of our tutors were teachers in the past, but many weren't. And you could see them just forming those relationships with the kids. Some of them would bring in games, some of them would bring in books, some of them would make up little things for the kids.
Well, we read through the books that we were given, that Preston gave us, and he got better and better at those over time steadily, which was encouraging. And sometimes we would play games, and sometimes I would print mazes for him and things like that. It was a good time.
I've always loved teaching with young kids. My wife and I have taught kindergarten. We taught children's church for many years. So it was really something I look forward to going back to.
It was a little bit harder picking up that Simone did not know her vows and stuff, but we worked through it, and these are first graders, and I mean, I don't feel like I needed a teaching degree to help her, you know, learn her vows or work through words and stuff, and it was kind of a learning experience for both of us.
When I started teaching raving, I came into it with not a lot of expectations in terms of me being the teacher and her being a student, but it was more of a friendship. Yeah, the years were so different, but we were able to connect on such a personal level that there really wasn't a teacher, because I learned so much from her while she learned so much from me. And so it was a very emotional, it was mentally challenging to me at the same time as it was her. So it was really a blessing for both of us.
It doesn't matter that you have the right skill set as far as that you know how to teach somebody, or that you have to do this vast preparation.
I was an example. I mean, I didn't do a lot of tutoring, but it's interesting how comfortable I felt picking up the information when I needed to and just working with the kid.
So for one thing, reading is a really important skill for these young people to learn now, because as some of the teacher folks would tell you, right now they learn to read, but later they're going to read to learn. And eventually they're going to get to the point where they have a job like you and I do, and some jobs, you read all day, and it's not even the point of the job.
That you have just a big opportunity to talk about Jesus and put Jesus right out there in front of them.
They'll have a good time. Anybody who wants to tutor will have a good time, and they'll have the joy of seeing a kid not only progress in their reading capabilities, but get introduced to Jesus Christ.
The written word is how God has chosen to communicate with us. And so reading is an especially important skill for that. Not that that's the only way to take that in, but it's an important one.
They don't know Jesus, or they don't go to church, and they see you caring enough to come and work with them and spend time with them.
And that, I mean, he was just fully engaged, and that was so exciting to see him listening to God's story.
I entered this program with apprehension, but I'm glad to be continuing on with it. And I've been really impressed with the people who've been part of it.
The way City Gospel Mission has set up this program, they've gone out of their way to make sure that it is not difficult to get involved. We have the curriculum coordinator who gets the books set up, and we have a little bit of training before you even start, just to make you feel comfortable with the tutoring process.
No matter how you serve, whether it's a tutor or a helper, Whiz Kids is something that is going to bless you as much as the student.
And more than anything, more than even being a reading helper, would just be an encourager and be that person that is consistent in their life and giving them attention and positive strokes, because I think most of them need that.
I think there are two goals. One of them to help with the reading, one of them to introduce them to Jesus.
I really enjoyed it, enjoyed the time, that I had with my girl and everything, so.
Yeah, I had a great time too, and I'll be back next year, and hopefully I'll have my little Simone.
Plus, it's a lot of fun being around the young kids.
But I had to go in front of the deacons at the meeting. They had lots of questions, and I didn't really have all the answers. And I said, at one point, you know what, guys, I jump in and figure out how to swim out. And so I don't have all the answers. And every one of those men said, that's all right, because God's got it figured out. And so we're along for the ride. And so that blessed my heart tremendously to know that we had leaders in our church that trusted God, trusted that God was using me, and could use them and would use our church. And that humbled me quite a bit and comforted me to know that they saw God's vision too.
That's a big responsibility in terms of teaching these children, because again, you are Jesus to them. So take the opportunity like I did and be a blessing not only to the children but to many others.
And it's a matter of loving on those kids.
So I looked forward each week to seeing my little girl Simone. She was so sweet, and she always told me that she liked coming to Whiz Kids.
I was really excited to see our church finding a new way to reach out to the community through this group, and so that's one of the reasons that I really knew it was worth taking this time.